To learn about the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit the bell notification. So today I thought I'd talk about gardening just a bit. I mean, the whole video is not going to be about gardening, but it's all wrapped around that concept. But I wanted to show you some of Carolyn's plants here. She cut a piece of tomato twig off and she put it in this bottle of water. So she's got a tomato plant, which I'm going to show you tomato plants here just in a second. I don't know, not even a week ago. And I'm sure you can see the roots down there in the water. It's already starting to sprout roots. So she created another tomato plant off a tomato plant. The plant that she cut it off of will now grow 2 more stems. So she cut 1 stem and it'll reproduce 2. That's going to give us more tomatoes because each stem produces tomatoes. Now I come out here on the porch, and again, she just brought these out maybe 2 or 3 days ago. I mean, it was cold just a few days ago. So these are the tomato plants that she's growing right here. This is the one she's cut. You can see here, and it's already starting to sprout out new stems. This is her watermelon. This one really took off. Now all this stuff is her, what she's calling her cold hardy plants. I think she's got squash and radishes, lettuce maybe. That might be lettuce here. She's made greenhouses. I couldn't tell you everything that she's got in here. But she's made greenhouses out of bottles. That there, she puts a cover over, and it's a greenhouse effect. She's been working down in the garden area. So it's just after 9 o'clock, and you can see that we still have quite a bit of shading here on the ground. This is where her garden's going to be. We moved it forward actually a bit. Last year it was back here where this screen wire is. She moved it up, and the reason we did that is because I've been cutting this portion down quite a bit, trying to get her more sunlight. As this greens up, it's even going to get worse in the shading in the morning time. So we don't get any morning sun. So what we're trying to do is get afternoon sun. And I've shown you that I've cut several of these cedar trees down, and we're going to make pole barn out of it for our wood pile here. And that'll make great poles. So I've been cutting these down, but I've been trying to selectively cut them so I'm not just, weeding out the whole thing. We really analyzed over the last few days. We come down in the evening time, we watch the sun path. Now as summertime continues on, the sun's going to continue to go behind me and then back. So right now, this tree here, we were going to keep. We thought it's so far away, it's not going to have a lot of effect on us. But 2 days ago, I came down. It was shading the solar panels here at about 5 o'clock. And again, we want to get as much evening sun as possible. So it's been the plan to cut that cedar tree, but I think I'm going to have to cut this one too. And then there is one tree here. See if I can get pointed to it correctly. That little small tree I think needs to come out, which is fine. That'll make a little bit of firewood. But we don't want to get too far back because we have a dogwood here, and these things are so pretty, these dogwoods. So today I'm going to continue my ventures of clearing this all out so we can get enough sunlight. So I got this one. You saw me cut this tree down, but I ran out of gas, and so I stopped. So I got to get this one trimmed up some more. This should make 2 poles for the pole barn. And then I got this one here I just showed you, and then this one up here. So it won't take long to cut them down. I may not get them, all the branches cut off of them. But we're really making a lot of space here that can be usable space for something one of these days. But you see what these cedar trees do? I get so many environmentalists so upset that I cut these cedar trees down. But it just destroys the ground. Nothing grows around them. So you got to clean them up. Otherwise you're just harming more than you're doing good. But now I can get back here pretty far. I can get these tires and trash out. We got trash back here. So what Carolyn's wanting to do here is fill these holes up here with dirt. She's gardened like this before, and she's had a lot of success with it. instead of planting in the rocks and having to get tillers out and a lot of equipment and buying a lot of things, we can fill this up with dirt. Now here in this area, this whole property is just filled with rocks. I mean, you can't dig more than a couple inches and you're hitting rock. And I'll show you over here what I'm talking about, because it's all exposed over here, so it'll be easy to see. But you got to imagine the whole yard is like this in Missouri. It's just real rocky. You'll see here, everywhere, you'll see that it's all like this, just rocks. And then she made this for the chickens, and then we decided not to use it. And she was going to put the chickens in this when we first got them. But what she's going to do now is she's going to wrap this around with bricks here, and then she'll be able to grow things in between the bricks. Of course, we bought some topsoil and cow manure and compost here because our compost isn't ready this year. Next year we'll have our own compost. The thing is with the compost, it's most likely that that's all we will need. We could probably fill this whole thing in with just compost. So what she's saying is this year's kind of an experiment to see how things go with this rocky soil and the tomatoes growing down into these holes. And then next year she'll be able to expand it since we'll have more compost dirt to use. This was $1.50 a piece here, which wasn't too bad, but then the compost was, I think, $2.50, so that was a little bit more expensive. So we got 10 of these and 5 of those, and she'll mix that in. I think she'll put 2 bags of dirt in with 1 bag of compost, and then to mix up, and then she can lay that out. Now the branches, a lot of people gripe at me that the yard looks ugly with all the branches, but I don't like wasting anything. All this is usable stuff, so once this dries out and all the green falls off of it, we'll be able to use this to start our fires for the wood stove. We can use it to burn waste, because this makes really hot, fast, quick burning fires. So you can burn waste with that if you need to. You can do a lot of good stuff with all this wood. So I try not to waste any of it. I'm sorry it looks ugly, but living off grid may not always be pretty. But then again, for the environmentalists that are so upset that I'm cutting down cedar trees, I'm not wasting anything. So today I'm going to start into cutting this tree here and getting this all cleaned up. Okay, so I'm sure you saw that I had to push the tree, because it did. It leaned back onto my chainsaw as expected and pinched it, so I wasn't going to be able to cut anymore anyways. So if I'd had the wedge, I could have put the wedge in there, especially if the tree was bigger. It would have lifted it off the chainsaw, or kept it off the chainsaw, and I could have kept cutting. I knew this was pretty light tree, so I was going to be able to push it over by hand. Everything went completely as expected. Here's the hinge. This is a really nice hinge. It pulled a lot of material out. So the hinge slows the fall and keeps it on course, so it's not going all kinds of different directions. It pulls the material from the bottom here. It pulls it out, and it keeps it from falling really fast. Okay, so I'm going to cut the other tree down, get them all cleaned up. Okay, so I got them down. It really did open up the area a lot. So this is the tree that was up against the fence that we were back and forth on whether we wanted to cut down. And this is the tree here that we were definitely going to cut down. So that was the 2 trees we cut down today, and just look how much it opened it up. It's incredible. Last year, you couldn't walk up here. It was completely covered in brush, and I started out with cutting this tree down here. We had to cut that tree because it completely blocked the sun to the solar panels last year. So now we've got all this opened up. I keep thinking, wonder what we could do with this. And I know somebody's going to say, well, move the solar panels up here. The solar panels are going to stay like they are, where they're free floating, easy to move. You got to figure in the wintertime, the cedar tree and that big oak would block all the sun to this spot. So I just have to move them around. But this might be an option to move here. Now eventually, of course, you want to be able to cut the grass up here and get this lawnmower up here. And I think I'm in pretty good shape. There's not a lot of rocks. One of the things you want to consider when you're cutting trees that might be a future yard is to leave the stumps up high enough that you can't get your mower deck over them. You want the mower deck to hit them. That way if it gets covered up, your mower deck will hit it, but not your lawnmower blade, so you won't tear up your lawnmower. I know the environmentalists absolutely hate that I've cleaned up this spot. They're just, well, they just get on my nerves. I mean, I hate to say that, but there's so many environmentalists that just think they know so much. But these cedar trees were just choking the life out of everything. We just couldn't do anything. When you're talking about saving the environment, it does you no good to save the environment if nothing's growing. But now we can have a garden. And like Carolyn said, you know, last year was a test and we didn't do well because we had so many trees. We knew we wouldn't do well. But this year she's testing it out with her raised garden beds. So I hope I can inspire you to clean up your mess when you're living your dream. Thanks for watching.